Hey everybody, it's Dina Rico with the Creativity Cave, and I have 3 amazing cards for you tonight. One is a little bit putzier, and then 2 are pretty quick, very fun, and happy cards for spring. So let me get started and show you how I put these together. I'm going to start with this beautiful daffodil card. This uses our stamp set You're Inspiring. This is in the Occasions catalog, and I'm going to heat emboss and then watercolor this beautiful daffodil image. And I'm going to use watercolor paper for my best results. So I've got my watercolor paper here. I've got my embossing buddy that I'm going to use on my paper first so that I get a nice crisp impression. I'll take my stamp and I'm going to ink this up with some Versamark ink and stamp it down and emboss it with some white embossing powder. Now I keep my white powder in a little sealed container so that I have an easy way to sprinkle the powder on without making a lot of mess. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, normally when I heat emboss something, I often do it from the bottom, but because watercolor paper is a real thick paper, I'm going to heat it from the top. And it might not look like much now, but of course once it melts, I love this kind of watercoloring because it's very light, literally, because it's white embossing powder, and so I think it keeps things really soft and pretty. A black outline image like this just isn't quite the look I'm going for. The other thing I like about watercoloring over embossed images is, of course, it is easy to contain the water if you want, or you can go right over it and be kind of messy with your watercoloring depending on what you want. Now in this case, I'm going to be a little messy. I think messy is good. So you can see that is embossed. So we're going to use 3 colors of ink. I'm going to use Old Olive, Soft Sky for the background, and then Crushed Curry for my Daffodil Yellow. Okay, despite the fact that we have a color named Daffodil Delight, I'm actually going to use Crushed Curry. I wanted a richer color for this. Now, whenever I watercolor, I like to use my aqua painter. So I'm just going to take, and I had, except it's missing, I had a little sheet, actually a burp rag that I use to clean my brush off, but I can't find it. It was here. I don't know what the heck I did with it. So what I'm going to start by doing, and notice I'm kind of going outside the lines, and that's okay, is I'm just going to kind of put a little bit of color down over the flowers and then the little buds. And you can see I'm not being super careful because I think that's kind of a pretty effect in watercoloring. Okay, so you can see that looks pretty good so far. Next, I'm going to change color. So you know what I think I'm going to do is use my stamp cleaner. I'm just going to clean the color off on here. You can use a rag though. It's very effective. Okay, now what I want to do is let that dry out just a little bit to kind of allow it to soak in some of that color, and then I'm going to come back and add some shading. Okay, so again, I'm going to take my olive ink, and I'm being a little careful because I don't want to mix the colors, the yellows. I want to keep the yellows and greens separate. And if they touch one another while they're still wet, they will blend into one another, and that's not the effect I'm going for. So I'm being fairly careful to keep those separate. So you can see I didn't touch up there. Okay, so now I've kind of got my rough coloring done. I'm going to come back and add a little bit more in a little bit, but we want this to dry. I'm blowing on it. The other thing I can do is use my heat tool. We want to be careful not to remelt stuff, but if you kind of move things around, it'll dry relatively quickly. Okay, now this looks great as is, but I kind of want to add a little more definition to those flowers. So where I see more embossed lines, I'm going to add more color, and that'll give me shading in those spots and really kind of make my flower sort of stand out. And then where there aren't as many lines, I want to leave those lighter. So the stamp usually does the shading work for you, which is awesome. And I love that. Now, I don't know about you guys, but where I am here in Iowa, today was not a very first day of spring feeling. It was cold and kind of rotten, actually. I was not impressed. Okay, so I'm just gonna dry that again real quick. Okay, now you can see on my card, this just looks prettier to me, and the difference is we're gonna add a little bit of color in the background, and that is in the form of Pool Party, or no, this is Soft Sky ink, although Pool Party would work well also. But I'm gonna pick this color up and I'm gonna color it on the underside of the leaves, and then I'm kind of just blending it out to where you almost don't really see the line. So you want the darkest color to be kind of on the underside, and then it'll be lighter above. Okay, but we still want a little color in there. There we go. So I'm just blending that out. Now I'm going to get all in the nooks and crannies here, but again, I'm being careful to not disturb the coloring I've done so far. I want to keep it intact so I see that blue, but not make green with the yellow of the flowers or a blue-green with the green of the leaves. And then you can see I'm blending that color out. I can see a few spots where I missed some green, so we'll come back and fill that in. But what I think this does is it sets my image up off the paper and really makes it look a little more artistic. Okay. All right, so that looks pretty good. There we go. Doesn't that really kind of set things off? Now let's come back in and fix, there's a couple spots where we need a little more green. We'll add those in, add a little more highlighting. Let's see, I missed that part altogether, so we'll add that in. Add a little more highlights in here. And there's a little spot here I kind of missed as well. So I think that looks pretty good. All right, now let's put this card together because it's pretty easy. I cut a Pear Pizzazz card base, and then I have kind of an odd shape layer for my old olive, and I just wanted something a little different, so that's kind of why I did it that way. And I'm just going to adhere those layers together. Then we're going to add some ribbon. Now in this case, you can do ribbon one of two ways. What I did here is I just, on my sample card, I wrapped ribbon around here and adhered it, and then tied a bow and adhered that on top. What I'm going to do with this one is tie the bow on. And you can see a little bit of a difference between the two versions of this. I actually did a Friday Quickie video a couple weeks ago about how to tie a bow easily. But it was just a freehand bow. It wasn't tied like this. Now when I'm tying a bow on a card like this, I find doing it upside down is actually quite beneficial. So I'm gonna fold my bow pieces. I'm holding my middle fingers, holding the layers down so it remains taut. And then you can see that is the result. We'll trim our ends here a little bit. So I think one of the secrets to tying excellent bows is to do it upside down, like so. Okay, so you can see they look a little bit different, but not significantly. If you are bow impaired, as so many are, it might be easiest for you to simply wrap that layer around like I showed you, and then stick a bow right over the top, like my first card. So there's the first. Oh wait, actually we gotta add our sentiment. So our sentiment is from the stamp set as well, and I've just got a little scrap here of paper. I'm gonna stamp that in some old olive ink and then pop it up on top of my card, because I think that just adds a nice little touch. All right. Okay, so I'll punch this with my triple banner punch, and then I'll add a couple of dimensionals. All right, now this was the fussy card. The other two cards are actually pretty quick, so I think you're gonna like them. Now, of course, all the details for all these projects can be found on my blog, and the link is in the description of this video. And I also have an online class for a couple of the stamp sets I'm using tonight, and those links will be in the description as well. So there we go. Isn't that gorgeous? This screams spring to me, of course. All right, next we have two really quick and easy cards. They're basically the same card layout, but you can see they are very different. They have very different looks to them. Obviously, one is horizontal and one is vertical. This has a much softer, fancy spring look, and this is kind of more fun and funky flowers. So let me show you how each of these comes together. Now, both of these stamp sets are some of my favorites. This uses the Cake Soiree stamp set, and this uses the the Beautiful Bouquet stamp set. And I do have online classes for both of those. I recommend both. They're great sets. They come with lots of sentiments, beautiful flowers, and each of them has coordinating dies, which makes me happy. Though these cards don't actually use dies for either one. So for our first card, I'm going to start with, I'm just going to set that up a little bit. I've got the same layers of cardstock, just different colors for each of these cards. So on my white layer, I'm going to use Night of Navy, the Soft Sky we had from our other card, and So Saffron along with that Old Olive again. So I'll start by stamping the bouquet image, or the leafy portion of the image. Does that make sense? There, that. The leafy bouquet. And I love this bouquet because you can fill it in with whatever flowers you would like, which makes it really fun and very versatile. So I've got these flowers, and now here's where you guys are going to laugh at me because I don't know flowers very well. Despite the fact that I have a degree in biology, I'm really not that good with flowers. So I think these kind of look like lavender, but I think they're actually more like hyacinths, maybe? I don't know. Like I said, I'm bad at flowers. Okay, so I've just got some on here like that. So you can see you can start filling in your bouquet, which is always fun. Then I'm going to stamp a couple of flowers, these solid flowers in Night of Navy. So I'll stamp one here, one here, one here, and then the fun part is I'm going to take this teeny little stamp and fill in with So Saffron. And saffron is one of my favorite colors for spring because it's just a nice soft yellow color. It's so pretty, and it just adds a nice little touch. You can see I'm kind of pushing these in where there aren't necessarily stems, but it will look really nice nonetheless and kind of fill in that whole little bouquet that I've got. Now in this stamp set, I'm going to also add this cute little sentiment. I love this set because there's lots of words that come with it, but this is a teeny little for you that I added on there in Night of Navy. And then I'm going to coordinate that with a beautiful bow using some of my crinkled seam binding ribbon. I just happen to have this extra piece that I think was left over for something. So let me show you how to tie a bow free-handed. Okay, so I've got a loop. I'm wrapping the ribbon around, then I'm going to push kind of a loop through and then pull and kind of adjust back and forth until I'm happy with my bow. And that's all there is to tying a bow like that. And I love this ribbon because it's super flat. It doesn't create much of any kind of bulk. And so when you go to mail it, there are no bulges, no problems mailing, which makes me happy. All right, so I'm just gonna put a little of Fast Fuse down. You can also use glue dots for this, but I like Fast Fuse because it's quick and easy. And then I'll just trim those ends off. And I have a lovely bow. Now there's one more step, and this one's important, and it's one of my favorites. I'm going to spritz this with my Night of Navy marker. And to do that, I'm just going to literally flick some color on there, and that really fills out the bouquet. All right, I'll adhere this to my So Saffron cardstock and then pop it up onto my Pool Party card. Now, I told you this was quick. By the way, I said Pool Party, I meant Soft Sky. Though again, Pool Party would work in this case. I like Soft Sky because it's just a teeny bit more subtle and soft. Okay. I have a weird sheet of dimensionals, and I have been cleaning out my office, like really deep cleaning things. I've been finding stuff that like is 10 plus years old. I think this might be a rogue sheet of dimensionals from a really long time ago, and there's just something weird about them. I don't know. So there we go, is that one. Now I can also dress this up with some rhinestones or pearls, and that will be really pretty. So I'm just gonna grab a pearl and place that in the center of a couple of my flowers, my blue flowers. Okay, so you see what I'm, yes. I like to pick them up with my scissors and then place them down. Pick them up, place them down. And one more that I will pick up and place down. And I think that just adds another fancy touch. Okay, our last card, also really simple. And I'll bring all three cards in at the end again. This one is kind of more bright, vibrant, fun spring colors. So I've got a lemon lime twist card base with a layer of black, and that always punches everything up. And then I'm going to stamp some of these beautiful flowers that are from the set Cake Soiree. And this is another great set, also one I have an online class for. It's a double set, so there's two cases, but I've combined mine into one. Actually, I don't believe I have mounted my stamps, so I'm going to pull them out quickly for you. Now on this card, I have, just like I said, bright, happy colors. And then my sentiment is actually from a celebration set called Eclectic Expressions. And I had some fun with this on my Facebook Live yesterday, so you have to check that out if you didn't catch it. But on these cards, really simply, we're just going to stamp in some bright colors, add some little embellishment touches, and then add our sentiment with a little, actually our embellishment touches on our sentiment. So let me show you that one. All right, so first of all, I'm going to stamp in Tangerine Tango, Melon Mambo, and Lemon Lime Twist. So that's a really fun color combination, especially when you punch it up with some black. All right, so I'm going to stamp 3 flowers like so in Tangerine Tango. Then I'm going to add 3 more flowers. keeping in mind that I'm going to have a strip kind of coloring over in Melon Mambo. Or I'm sorry, my sentiment is going to cover over some of this, but I am coloring that or stamping that flower in Melon Mambo. All right, and last I'm going to add some leaves and vines in, this is Lemon Lime Twist. And aren't these colors just happy? I did a very similar kind of card earlier this week on my blog, similar colors with the stamp set. And I actually made this card first. And we'll kind of add this little vine image in here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to take my little strip of cardstock here and stamp my sentiment in black ink. And this just says happy birthday. I'll punch it with my trusty triple banner punch. Oops. There we go. All right, and you can see how that's just going to fit right over the top. Now there's one more step that I'm going to take, and that is I'm going to take a punch. This is the, I'm going to say decorative ribbon border punch, but I can't remember if that is actually the official name of it. It'll be on my blog. But I'm just going to punch this a couple times. This is one of those punches where you stamp, or you punch it once, line the design up, and then punch again. I'm sorry if that's making my camera shake. My only tip for this is to make sure that the back of the cardstock is resting against the back of the punch. So this edge of your cardstock as you're going through rests on the edge of your punch. That makes you get that nice straight line. Now I stopped punching because this is longer than I need it to be, so I'll just trim this off. And what I'm going to do is, there's two sides to this. So there's the eyelet side and then just the scallop side. So that's the eyelet side. I want just the scallop side. So I'm going to adhere that right here, like so. And I'm just going to put some fast views on here. I like that this punch is so versatile because there are two designs in one punch. So I thought that is so clever that they did it this way. So I just want a little bit of that scallop edge peeking out. And then I'm just going to trim off the remainder from my little piece. Okay. And then to finish this up, we're going to stick this on with dimensionals. Oh, I've got my funky dimensionals again. These are like the dimensionals that time forgot. Okay, woo! And then we're going to add one more fun thing. I thought about spritzing this, but I decided against it just because, you know, sometimes you can get crazy and do too much in a card, and I didn't want that to happen. So instead, I am adding a little bow with shimmer ribbon. And look at this, I've got a brand new roll of it. I've been using a lot of this black shimmer ribbon. I love it. So I'm just going to tie a bow. So we'll do one more bow so you can watch it. Oh. There we go. And again, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, and I'll trim my ends. And then once again, I'll just adhere this with fast fuse. I could certainly use a glue dot too, whichever floats your boat. Okay, and then of course, last but not least, we'll adhere it to our layers of cardstock. All right, now that I've made a giant mess on my table, I have 3 gorgeous and simple cards that I created, each with a little different look and a little different technique, but all with pretty bows. Yay! So I hope you loved these projects. If you have any questions or would like to purchase, please shop through my online store. Again, those links are in the description of my video. And thank you so much for stamping with me tonight, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great night. We'll see you soon. Bye!